We have asked for resolutions to be submitted by the Democratic delegation to be posted. That has been denied. We've asked for agendas submitted by the Democratic delegation, minutes and transcripts from all previous hearings, items submitted into the record at all hearings, correspondence between the Democratic delegation and the chairman, current map, data, and shape files, and relevant legal materials controlling the redistricting process be posted on the website. So you either don't have to spend time away from your family here tonight, or do research on your own to understand what the law is, and you can access it on your own at any time. There are plenty of people who couldn't be here tonight. Some people didn't know how to get into this room, like me. I went to the front door of Town Hall. It's locked. On August 31st, Commissioner Pernick proposed a resolution calling for all of this information and more to be posted on the website. The resolution was voted down. All Democrats voted in favor, and all Republicans voted against. Democratic commissioners have repeatedly asked for materials and information to be posted on the website, but our requests have been ignored. We therefore are proposing a simple resolution stating that the clerk shall post any information requested by either the Republican or Democratic commissioners, allowing both Democrats and Republicans the opportunity to post materials fair, equitable, and common sense. We have Resolution 1, which calls for allowing Democrats and Republicans the opportunity to post material on the website, and that the clerk be required to post any information requested by either Republican or Democratic commissioners. So at this point, I move Resolution 1 that was submitted tonight for a vote.
You're welcome to do that, but let's figure out first what's number 1. These aren't numbered like the previous ones you had. So you're talking about, if I'm correct, the resolution dealing. Okay, I see that. Resolution number 1, dated September 21, 2022.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I just briefly respond to Mr. Mejias's comments?
There's a motion on the floor.
And I'd like to speak to the motion.
I second.
On the motion, I'd like to address the motion. And I note that in the course of making that motion, Mr. Mejias made allegations about the unilateral, dictatorial manner in which you have run these commission hearings, and I think that that needs a response. Classically, the chairman of a group of people can convene that body, and that's what you have done. As far as an agenda, this is a public hearing. This hearing is designed to listen to members of the public and not necessarily an agenda for other kinds of actions. At the hearing, we listen to you, and that's the agenda. And that was the agenda set by the chairman. With respect to the comments that the 3-minute rule has somehow got a racial base, that charge is insulting, ludicrous, and deserving of no response. So I don't want to make any.
You just made one.
With respect to the motion itself, it is my view that materials to be posted on the website, in Mr. Mejias's own words, should be the result of a vote of the commission. So if materials are to be submitted for posting, they should be submitted to the commission. I'm sure the commission would prudently rule on whether particular materials belong on the website or not. And for that reason, the way the wording of the resolution is currently crafted, I intend to vote against the resolution and encourage my fellow delegation members to do the same.
All in favor say aye.
I'm calling for a roll call vote.
Okay. Peter B.
Nay.
John Reinhardt.
Nay.
Maureen Fitzgerald.
No.
Christopher Devane.
No.
Eric Millett.
No.
David Mejias.
Let me just say that this is a resolution that allows information to be posted on the website. That's all it is. And the notion that we don't need a vote for when these public hearings are going to take place, where, what time, or how many. We don't need a resolution. We don't need to vote on whether or not on the agenda, the items on the agenda, but we have to vote and give an opportunity to censor the information that Democrats want to put on the website is really, it's unbelievable. So
What's your vote, Mr. Mejia?
I vote in the affirmative.
Derek Paschow, absent. Andrina Wyatt. Okay. James Megan.
Yes.
Michael Pernick.
I will just add to what Commissioner Mejia said, one additional point. Our practice thus far appears to be unilateral control of what is posted on the website by our chairman, possibly by the Republican members. This resolution would give us some balance and fairness. If there's a 6-vote rule, that would be fine if we actually voted to post things on the website. The one time we proposed a resolution, I proposed a resolution to post material on the website that was voted down. And ever since then, we've been operating on a unilateral basis dictated by our chairman and the Republican members. So with that, I will vote yes on this resolution.
The resolution fails. Mr. Mejia, you have another resolution?
Yes, on that issue, we're not just here to listen to public comment. Right? We're here, and I challenge Mr. B's notion, my respected colleague, Mr. B, who said we're here to listen to you. The reality is you should be here to listen to us. You should be here to learn about the process and what's going on behind closed doors that's going to affect your representation in government for the next 10 years. So that's why we want an open process. That's why we want open hearings for you to have more information. And that's why we think the legislative maps that are proposed by each side, by this commission, not be submitted to the legislature with only an hour for the public to comment on it, then you should have at least a few weeks to come down and say, hey, my community is being divided, or I don't like the way this is being done, and just go straight to the legislature without any input from you. So that's the way this has been going. So we all know what's happening. And we knew this resolution that would give you the information. Knowledge is power, right? The more information you have, the more power you have. So we give you less information, you have less power to affect and change the system that has not done a great job of representing communities in this area for a long time. And because we knew the resolution was going to fail, the Democratic commissioners are left with no other choice but to take our own steps to provide information to the public. The Democratic commissioners are therefore releasing a public share drive where we will post in one central location any information that we are able to get from members of the public. Our share drive is separated into folders to provide information from past hearings, information on current legislative maps, relevant communications, public notices, upcoming meetings, and relevant legal materials controlling the redistricting process. During COVID, we all learned how to use QR codes as menus, right, in restaurants. So we're going to make this very easy for you. We're going to have a QR code that will allow you to access our share drives.
Mr. Commissioner, pardon me.
Yeah.
You're free to go into that, but why don't we stick with the resolutions that you have first, and you can circle back to that and give you the time and opportunity.
Well, this is directly relevant to that. So that's why we are going to be handing out the QR codes for our shared drive. There are cards that are being handed out, or you can visit our website at https://bits.ly/dem redistricting 2022, or access it through the QR codes, which our staff will hand out now. We shouldn't have to do this. It's shameful that the official website is not fully updated. Our shared drive does not solve the problem because most members of the public will go to the official website for their information. So sadly, we've been left with no other choice but to do this. And if you want to know how poorly the website is being managed, at our last meeting, the legislative website had the right place to go, North Hempstead Town Hall, and the wrong time. The commission's website had the right time, but the wrong place to go. So if you went to our website, we were sending it to the legislature when the meeting was at North Hempstead Town Hall in Nassau. So, regards to the second resolution, I would ask Mr. Pernick to.
Well, Mr. Hayes, before you proceed with that, you made one motion. I'd like to make a motion and see how the commission reacts to our motion. I would like to move that in addition to the current hearing dates of September 28th in Long Beach, October 18th in Glen Cove, and October 20th in North Massapequa, that the commission held public hearings on October 13th in Freeport and October 25th in Elmont, and on a date to be determined in Hicksville. It is my understanding that our staff executive director has spoken with yours and that you would be on board with these dates and locations. So hopefully that information is correct, and I move those additional hearing dates.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. On the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Well, yeah, I would call for a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Peter B.
Aye.
John Reinhardt.
Aye.
Maureen Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Christopher Devane.
Aye.
Eric Millett.
Aye.
David Mejias.
History is being made here, we all vote yes and pass a motion. Right? Yes.
Jerry Cashat is absent. Adriana Wyatt. James Megan.
Yes.
Michael Pernick.
I'm going to vote yes, but first I'd like to explain a little bit of background about this motion, which we did not know was going to be made tonight. I'm delighted that it's being made. We did not know that it was going to be made tonight. In our first hearing, on August 31st, we introduced a resolution calling for a more robust hearing schedule all across the county, in communities including the 3 communities that are now being proposed today, Elmont, Freeport, and Hicksville. That resolution was voted down on a party line vote. All 5 Democratic appointees voted for it. All 5 Republican appointees voted against it. Since then, we have heard nothing from our colleagues over on this side of the dais about additional hearing dates, additional hearing times. Nothing since August 31st. We heard from the public that people wanted more hearings. People wanted more opportunities to be heard, more opportunities to engage with this process, and we heard specifically from the public that it was important to have hearings in Freeport, Elmont, and Hicksville. So we did the work of reaching out to locations in those 3 places, of reaching out to identify venues for those hearings, and we proposed yesterday 3 resolutions to call for hearings in those locations. Then we hear moments before this meeting that there's actually agreement to hold these. That's great news. But this was not something that is just coming out of nowhere. We've been working and trying to push for these hearings for some time, and it's a good thing that we're finally able to reach some agreement to hold these. Thank you for agreeing to hold these 3 hearings. And with that, I will vote aye on this resolution.
The resolution passes.
You know, it would have been helpful if we would have done this in August and had given the public more time and public notice of these meetings, but thankfully people have come out to these meetings and had their voices heard and have shamed our Republican colleagues into actually doing the right thing on this resolution. So thank you everybody for coming out.
I'm now going to speak to resolution number 2. In the schedule initially proposed by our chair, there was a plan, and I believe it's still a plan, I've heard nothing has changed, to release proposed maps. I believe it's on November 11th. And that's when these proposed maps would first be made available to the public. This plan also called for a vote in a subsequent meeting on those proposed maps on the very same day, with a 1-hour break between those 2 meetings. And that was the proposal. At the last 2 meetings, many members of the public repeated the concerns that we have raised with this schedule. In fact, at our first meeting, we proposed that same resolution that would have provided for 7 hearings after those maps were initially made public, so the public had opportunities to engage, the public had opportunities to give feedback, the public had opportunities to understand how those proposals would affect their community, and perhaps we'd be able to address those concerns before passing a map. That resolution was voted down on August 31st. So I am once again proposing a new resolution. This is labeled Resolution Number 2. This resolution would require 3 weeks after initial maps are presented, 3 weeks for the public to look at those maps, to understand those maps, to provide feedback to this commission, and it would also require at least one hearing in that 3-week period so we can hear directly from the public any feedback, any concerns, any suggestions, and there's an opportunity for us to amend those proposals. This is especially important because the charter requires us to have 6 votes to pass any map. That means that we have to compromise. It means we have to agree. It means we have to look at different proposals and try to work together to reach a consensus. I know I'm interested and committed to have that collaborative process. I'm interested in trying to work together to reach consensus, but it's not possible if we only have 1 hour after draft maps are proposed to have that discussion, to have that collaboration. It means that we're doomed to fail from the start. So we need that time so this commission can try and achieve its mission of achieving 6 votes to recommend a map to the legislature, a map that complies with the law. And that's what this resolution is intended to do, to give us that opportunity to work together, to listen to the public, and to move forward with a legal map that we can all hopefully get behind. So with that, I will make a motion to move forward Resolution Number 2.
I'd like to second that motion, and I would like to add that this is very important to provide the necessary transparency that the public is asking for. Again, this happens once every 10 years. So we do need the time to give the public the opportunity to review these maps, to know that the whole process, the entire process is fair, that we're not hiding anything. So with that said, I second the motion.
And I'll move for a roll call vote, Susan.
Peter B.
Mr. Chairman, I share the Democrats' stated vision of collaboration and hope for consensus on compromise maps. But with that said, I think it's premature and unnecessary to set arbitrary deadlines for when maps will be available at this point in time. And also would like to comment that once the maps are presented to the county legislature, there will be plenty of opportunity to provide the public with comment and to address the county legislature, keeping in mind that all this body does is give its advice, its opinion. We, this commission, think X map or X, Y, and Z maps should be considered by the legislature, after which it is the legislature's job to adopt maps. And the legislature will undoubtedly provide plenty of opportunity for the public to comment through its various committees and meetings. So for those reasons, I propose to vote no on this particular resolution and encourage my fellow delegate members to do the same. No.
John Reinhardt.
No.
Maureen Fitzgerald.
No.
Christopher Devane.
No.
Eric Millett.
No.
David Macias.
We just heard that there shouldn't be arbitrary dates for maps. That is exactly what happened here. This is why you're not going to have the opportunity to comment on the maps that this commission proposes to the county legislature. It was completely arbitrary without any input from the Democratic delegation, which is why we have to make these resolutions to try and have transparency and allow input from the public. So to say that there should be arbitrary hearing dates for maps when all we've had are arbitrary hearing dates and the Democratic delegation being let down the cold is really
Mr. Macias.
so I vote in the affirmative.
Gary Cashel is not present. Adriana Wyatt. Okay, that's it. That's a yes. James Megan.
Yes.
Michael Pernick.
I need to address a comment made by my colleague Commissioner B that seemed to minimize the importance of this commission. I believe he said that we're only advisory. We do have the word advisory in our commission's title, but the charter gives us serious and significant responsibilities. The legislature is obligated to consider any maps that we send. And yes, the legislature can amend those maps, the legislature could reject those maps, the legislature could come up with its own maps, but the legislature is obligated to consider anything that we send its way. And our work is especially important because of the complicated and overlapping statutes, federal, state, constitutional law that governs this process. It's important that we provide a map to the legislature that we are confident is legal. And a critical part of understanding that process is understanding how the map affects the community. There are statutes, including the Voting Rights Act, the Federal Voting Rights Act, and the State Voting Rights Act, that constrain this process, that govern this process, and some of the factors that are relevant if courts ever evaluate plans is what members of the public, how the maps affect members of the public. There's no way we can get that information if we have 1 hour for the public to comment during this critical stage in the process. So it's concerning and disheartening to hear Commissioner B minimize the importance of this commission, and I do hope that we're able to reach an agreement to have more than 1 hour for the public to review draft maps and comment on draft maps before we take a vote. And with that, I will vote yes on the resolution.
The resolution fails. Any other resolutions?
No, but before we begin public comments, I do have a document, a submission that I would like to make into the record that I will pass out to my fellow commissioners. And I believe our staff has copies of the document that we're submitting. Should I have a copy for the clerk that I can submit? Pete will hand it over. I'll hand it over. The document that we are submitting into the record today is a preliminary expert assessment of whether our current map, the map that was adopted in 2013, complies with new requirements under the Municipal Home Rule Law. The takeaway from this assessment is simple, and it's extremely important. The current map and any maps adopted by Nassau County that are similar to the current map would be an illegal partisan gerrymander. The results of this expert analysis leave no room for doubt. Now, for folks in the audience who might be new, and I expect that's most of you, most people are not redistricting nerds like me. For folks who are new to this, partisan gerrymandering is where districts are drawn to fundamentally favor one party over the other. It's where districts are drawn to ensure that members of one particular party have more of a voice than members of the other particular party, and it leads to skewed outcomes in representation. For instance, a county that might be a relatively even partisan divide, it could lead to a skewed outcome where one party has 12 seats and the other party has 7. That's partisan gerrymandering. And there are widely accepted methodologies that are very robust to evaluate whether a map constitutes a partisan gerrymander. Partisan gerrymandering violates the fundamental rule of democracy that voters should get to choose their elected representatives rather than elected representatives getting to choose their voters. Now, we have new provisions in New York state law that protect against partisan gerrymandering. It's a state law that we didn't have 10 years ago. It's in the Municipal Home Rule Law. We've spoken about these provisions as a commission previously. And I'm going to read directly from Municipal Home Rule Law 34. This is a new statute that was just adopted last October. It says, districts shall not be drawn to discourage competition or for the purpose of favoring or disfavoring incumbents or other particular candidates or political parties. It's very clear. Districts should not be drawn to advantage members of one political party over another. And this language has been litigated here in New York. went up to the Court of Appeals in a case, Harkin Rider v. Hochul, earlier this year. And in that case, the Harkin Rider case, the Court of Appeals adopted a standard for evaluating when a map is an illegal partisan gerrymander, and it's the same standard that's been used by other states. Essentially, what courts do is they look at what's called an ensemble analysis. What that means is you have an expert, a political scientist, a data scientist, run a simulation and generate thousands or tens of thousands of maps, random maps, and evaluate how the map that is in contention compares to those thousands of maps. And if the map that's in contention is more extreme than 99% of those maps, or 90% or 80%, a court might conclude that the map is an illegal partisan gerrymander because it was motivated by unlawful partisan intent. So we have a statute in New York that protects against this. We have a precedent from the Court of Appeals applying this evidence to identify when a map is a partisan gerrymander. So we, the Democratic members, we asked an individual named Dr. Dan Magleby, Daniel Magleby. He's a political scientist at the University of Binghamton, and he's one of the leading experts on this type of analysis in the country. He's widely recognized in the field of redistricting. He has a PhD and a master's in political science from the University of Michigan, an MS in mathematical methods in the social sciences from Northwestern, a BA in political science from Brigham Young University. He teaches courses on legislative politics and quantitative methodology. He conducts research on legislative elections, geographic information systems data, redistricting, voting rights, legislatures, political geography. His work has been testified in academic journals, and he's been relied on by courts for his expertise on these issues. So we asked Dr. Magleby to perform an objective, non-partisan analysis of the current county legislative map. And with the help of his computer technology, he replicated the process that would be followed if the district map makers were using neutral criteria and not trying to favor one party over the other. And he created an ensemble of 10,000 hypothetical maps that followed the representation, followed the requirements of law, and did not take party preferences into account. And here's what he found. The map that we have today is substantially more extreme and biased in favor of the Republicans than all 10,000 randomly generated maps. All of them. That makes this not just a partisan gerrymander, an extreme partisan gerrymander. The chances of arriving at a map this biased using neutral, traditional districting criteria, it's less than 1 in 10,000. It means it's statistically impossible. This pattern repeats using contests in countywide elections year after year, contest after contest, and it's clear evidence that the 2013 map is an extreme partisan gerrymander in favor of Republican voters. So what does this mean for us? Well, it means that we can't use this map as a starting point. Because if we use an illegal map as a starting point, it infects any map that we draw. Any map that is substantially similar to the current map is going to have the same result. So it means that we cannot use this current map as a starting point, and we need to start from scratch and draw maps based on the input from the public, based on the feedback that we get. And that's why this process is especially important. We can't just tweak the current lines. We need to start from scratch. This report also puts this commission and puts the county on official notice, that if we move forward with a map that's substantially similar, a map that shares characteristics, we would be in violation of law. That's what this report does. So this is the start of the process. We're going to continue to do analysis. I am concerned, but not surprised to see this outcome of an objective analysis in our current map. And I look forward to hearing what people think about this preliminary report in today's comments and in future hearings. Commissioner Diaz, I don't know if there's anything you want to add. That's this document that we submitted into the record.
I mean, even if you just look at the map, one of the reasons we have so many concerns, I believe in the town of North Hempstead's meeting, there was attention drawn to Laura Schaefer's district. But the thing that concerns us most is if you think about a gerrymandered district and what it looks like. I mean, the presiding officer of Mr. Mckenna's district is incredibly gerrymandered, right? So that he can win his election. And he's in charge of this process. And the legislature, he's the guy that's going to make the decision on what the legislators vote on. And he's going to tell the Republicans how to vote. So here is Legislative District 9. This is presiding officer Mckenna's district. And as you can see, it's ridiculous and illegal. And this is to make sure that he wins his election. And now he's in charge of making sure that the maps that they want get passed. And that affects you. Very much so. There's not even a 1 in 10,000 chance that this current map is legal. Right? And this is not some Democratic consultant that we have. This is a widely recognized expert, a doctor of political science from SUNY Binghamton, who is relied upon by the courts to give a neutral opinion as to whether or not there is illegal gerrymandering. One is not a 1 in 10,000 chance that that map is not an illegal gerrymander. And the people that control it, and the people that control the legislative redistricting process, have the most gerrymandered districts and have the most to gain by it because they win their elections and keep control. So, and that affects how you're represented in government. So, it is concerning, it's scary, and that's why there should be a more open and transparent process, and you should have input as to what maps are recommended by this commission to the legislature, so that we don't just keep the status quo of power. The people that have been denied empowerment in this legislative redistricting process and government for decades here in Nassau County finally can have some power of their own, and that's why it's so important that we hear from the public.
Thank you, Commissioner Maness. And one last point that is worth noting. In our first meeting on August 31st,
Excuse me, can we hear from the public?
yes, one last point. In our first meeting on August 31st, we introduced a resolution to prohibit this commission from considering partisan data in the map drawing process. We did this specifically to ensure that the maps that emerge from the process comply with state law, to prevent against a repeat of the illegal 2013 map. And it would. If we actually kept politics, kept partisan advantage out of the process, that would give protection to Nassau County voters. That resolution failed. All 5 Democratic appointees voted in favor, all 5 Republican appointees voted against. I hope in light of this submission that we just received and just put into the record, we might reconsider that resolution at a future hearing. Thank you.
Okay, Ann Leiter. Legal Women Voters Central Nassau.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Ann Leiter, co-president of the Central Nassau Chapter of the League of Women Voters. The League is a non-partisan, grassroots, non-profit organization encouraging informed and active participation in our democracy. While the League takes positions on a variety of public policy issues, it never supports or opposes any political party or candidate. As it has already said in public meetings of the District Commission, the League is here to advocate on behalf of a fair, transparent, and inclusive redistricting process. We remind you that redistricting is foundational to the right to vote and that the public will only have confidence in the fairness of this process if it is able to observe the work of the Commission. Yet the League is disappointed by the opaque manner in which the Commission has conducted the process thus far, holding its working meetings outside the public view, compressing the timeline, limiting public input, and failing to update its website with relevant and timely information. As we have mentioned earlier, all public, working, and mapping meetings must be open to the public and publicized with ample notice via all forms of media, including but not limited to town, county, and commission websites, newspapers such as Newsday, the Herald, the Long Island Business News, WLIW, local radio stations, and the numerous town and village publications that the county clerk already uses with public legal notices, collectively known as designated newspapers. The Commission's website must reflect agendas and minutes, including press releases, a contact list of staff and consultant, a timetable and maps, as well as serve as a portal for public comment as soon as possible. The Commission has until January 7th to deliver its mapping plan to the legislature, so there is no valid reason for the cutting of public comment off by October. The lack of meetings for those physically challenged is unacceptable. The county legislature meetings noticed earlier states the following. The Nassau County Legislature is committed to making its public meetings accessible to individuals with disabilities, and every reasonable accommodation will be made so that they can participate. You failed to accomplish this by holding no meetings virtually, which would enable the physically challenged to participate and make oral statements. Most egregious is the fact that there are no scheduled public meetings after the Commission has released its plan, mere hours before delivering to the legislature. As you well know, this will give the public zero opportunity for review and comment, and no opportunity for the Commission to incorporate any concerns into modified maps. This is a sharp contrast in the process of the New York Independent Redistricting Commission, which extended at least the appearance of respect to the public. Finally, remind you of the new redistricting requirements imposed under the New York's amended Municipal Home Rule Law and the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act of New York. The Home Rule Law states, districts shall not be drawn to discourage competition or for the purpose of or discouraging or disfavoring incumbents or other particular candidates to the party. Nassau's redistricting must be nonpartisan. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank you for your time. I have a quick question for the individual testifying. First, thank you for your testimony. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for the work and involvement in this process. We are grateful to have your input and feedback. I can say that on my own behalf. You had mentioned the importance of having virtual hearings and how that could be important for the public. I'd like to note that in our first meeting on August 31st, I had introduced a resolution calling for additional hearings, including 2 virtual remote hearings. Unfortunately, that resolution was voted down on a party line vote. Could you explain to the Commission a little bit more about why the League feels that virtual meetings are an important step in this process, and how that could be an important thing for us to do to ensure transparency and hear from the public?
Thank you. Yes, we have members in the League, as well as members of the public, who are unable to attend because of the distance, because of the physical obstacles, and because of the timing. And this is recorded and released later, but that's after the fact. So they don't have the opportunity to give you input by speaking, even doing it through Zoom or virtually. And we would like that opportunity for all the members of our community, and especially for those who have disabilities.
Thank you. Thank you. Abby, you too.
Here's a piece of the statement. Hello, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Abby McHugh, and I'm an organizer with Common Cause New York. Common Cause is a national nonpartisan advocacy organization founded in 1970, working to ensure that every vote counts, that every eligible voter has equal say, that our elections represent the will of the people, and that our government is of, by, and for the people.
My apologies for interrupting, but whoever's in charge at the time, keep you.
Common Cause New York is one of the most active state chapters within Common Cause, with tens of thousands of members and activists in every county of New York State. Redistricting is a major policy focus for Common Cause across the country and in New York State. Our national redistricting and representation program helps members of the public play an active role in shaping their own representation and lead efforts to create fairer, more inclusive, and impartial process for drawing districts. We also litigate to challenge partisan and racial gerrymanders at state and federal courts around the country. Common Cause New York has offered insight in local redistricting processes at the county and municipal level, as well as statewide. And today we are here with a few what we believe to be fundamental recommendations that will help Nassau County's redistricting process be more transparent and center people during the process. Members of the public who have had an opportunity to be heard and to engage with the Commission regarding proposed maps are less likely to resort to legal challenges to those maps. First, it is imperative to hold public feedback meetings after any proposed map. We've seen in other counties that public input is most clear and helpful to the redistricting mission after proposed maps, since people have something to base their comments on. We applaud your work this month in traveling around the county to gather feedback before the draft map. We strongly urge you to do similarly after and releasing any proposed map. There's ample time, since the Commission has until January 7th to deliver its mapping plan to the legislature. Second, accessible meetings that allow all to participate without barriers are essential to the fair redistricting process, like our friends at the League said. Not only does this help Nassau constituents with disabilities tell you their feedback freely, but also those who sometimes cannot find free time to participate, like parents. Finally, the draft map that your commission produces should reflect the changes to the county since the last census and put the priorities of the people ahead of politicians. Long Island continued its decades-long pattern of increasing diversity in the 2020 census. This ongoing shift is especially strong in Nassau County, with those voting age identifying Hispanic growing by 16.8%, Asian by 11.3%, and Black by 11.1%. Protecting the political power of communities of interest through the redistricting process is an important criterion in the New York Constitution's redistricting provision. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Robert Harris.
Thank you to the presiding officers. My name is Rob Harris, Nassau County Civil Service Employees Association, Local 830 Union Vice President, and A. Holly Patterson Union President, and also a member of the Long Island Fed, and a newly appointed member of the Ethics Board of the Village of Hempstead. But I come to you today impartial of politics. But I am partial to the communities that I serve and live in. And those are the corridors such as the Village of Hempstead, Roosevelt, Freeport, Westbury, and such communities. And we're talking about redistricting. I'm all for equity and equality. But talking about ethics, this is ethically wrong. So, what I'm saying is, when we talk about redistricting, a lot of y'all are talking today, but the people in the audience have no clue what you're talking about because you're rambling. And we're not getting to the point. The point is, it's all about power. That's what it's about. It's about power. Because let's just talk about a district like the Village of Hempstead, which has the census amount has gone up, which would increase their voting power. But what happens with redistricting, it takes people that's able to vote for that community out of that community. So they get less representation. And what happens is those representing these communities and these such like communities are people that don't have the best interest for those communities.
Absolutely.
And what happens is those communities are affected. Now we're talking about transparency and communication. Even if you're on the other side, why are we just now seeing this map today? We can't decipher what's going on today. We are taxpayers. If it was time for you to be elected, we'll be getting all kind of literature in our houses. Why are we getting literature about this? Nothing stops the other side from informing the public of what's going on. So if you don't agree with the other side, start getting the information out to the public so the public can clearly understand what's going on. See, when we come here, a lot of times, your minds are made up. But what I would like to say is, who is in charge of this redistricting? Because if you have somebody that's in charge, you have where the public and the taxpayers can send their information and their concerns to. That being said, I know my time's ran out, and I don't want you to kick me off, so I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, just for the record, we were asked to bring those maps from the last time we had a hearing. So that's the current map over there, and there's another one of them floating around over here that you can take a look at for yourself. That's why they're here. Those aren't new maps, those are old.
All right, no problem. I'm just
Okay.
asking that maybe some more literature can be sent to the homes so we could take time and look at it in our own, in our own space. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm sorry, and thank you for your comments. They're well appreciated. I first want to just point out for the record that we're not elected officials, none of us up here. We are donating our time for this cause. But I also want to point out that the Democratic commissioners have been trying to get information out. We've been fighting to get information out. We totally agree with you, and I think we'll be doing our due diligence to work harder on that. So thank you for your comments.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Johnny Boyd Jr.
Good evening, Chairperson and distinguished board. My name is John F. Boyd Sr. I'm the president of the Roosevelt Chamber of Commerce, and I also serve with the Roosevelt Fire Department as a volunteer fire policeman. I also serve our American Legion Joe Murphy Post 1957, and I do all that proudly. I'm a United States Army veteran, staff sergeant, and I say all that not because I'm trying to showboat. I'm trying to let you understand the dedication that I have and the belief that I have in our democracy. I don't want this to go down the way you guys think it's going to go down, where one side is just going to gain all the power and the other side is not. We want to make sure that our voices are being heard. And we want to make sure, we will fight to make sure that no one takes away all the hard work that our ancestors made through the civil rights movement to get us to vote and so on and so forth, and now all of a sudden we don't have the same power that they laid their life down for. So I say that as the chamber president, I have received numerous phone calls from people that can't make it to the meeting because we come from a working class community. And like the young lady said earlier, the virtual meetings or so on and so forth, I'm all for that. But I just want this commission to put on the record that we want complete, open, and disclosures on these meetings so that we will have an opportunity to have our voices be heard. Put it on the record because we're not going to lay down, and we don't want to threaten anyone, but we're not going to just lay back and just let this go down the way you guys think it's going to go down. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Boucher.
You're welcome.
Dr. Emily Moore. Dr. Emily Moore.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Dr. Emily Moore. When I was in high school, the late President Kennedy said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country." I'm a proud resident of Roosevelt and Freeport and Hempstead and Nassau County and in the United States of America. We as citizens of the United States of America pay federal, state, and local taxes. When a Republican is in or a Democrat is in, we pay taxes. It's our money that you are spending, you are using, and you are mismanaging. It is your responsibility as elected officials and volunteers, and I appreciate this commissioner and all these other people here. It's your responsibility to meet the needs of all the people and represent all the people. I had the opportunity to go to Morgan State College. I'm a part of the civil rights movement. John Lewis said, "You're a pioneer. You put your life on the line." You're the first group that said we're staying in prison because we're not paying $90,000. That's our student tuition. But that's not the point. I'm a former Peace Corps volunteer. After going to college, I lived through three I'm 80 years old. I lived through the Civil War. 3 military coups in the Civil War in Nigeria. I was a volunteer. I did a lot of great things. I had the opportunity to travel. I grew up in Freeport, Long Island. I've been involved from high school. I attended Freeport High School from Cleveland Avenue School. I grew up in the village of Freeport. I didn't have one black teacher from elementary school to high school. But I had some good people that I was involved with. People who were fair, who made it possible when people said, how are we going to go to college? Where there's a will, there's a way. I don't want to take up any more time. The people here, it's your responsibility. And I've been all over the world. I've organized all over. I've been in Israel, Turkey, Greece, Korea, now Tanzania, Africa. Been a pioneer in not only the human rights struggle for a better America. You can Google my name and see some of the things I've done, but that's not the point. How are we going to train and raise and prepare the children so they can be successful, so they can be able to accomplish what you accomplished here and everybody here? That's the challenge. The public school should be made available to everybody. And these private organizations and charter schools and all these other people, it's our tax money that's paying for this stuff, and the privatization is not being responsible and accountable. I want everybody to think about why this country is going through so many challenges it's going through. I never thought at this time in my life that I would be dealing with basic survival and basic things for America. I'm a citizen of the United States, I pay my taxes, and it's the government and your responsibility to these are all those people, and it's up to us to train and educate the children so they can be successful just as you are. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Dr. Dan Oppenheimer.
Good evening all, and good evening to members of the public. Thank you for coming out. This is my 3rd meeting, so I'm a little bit of a redistricting nerd also. This is transparency and collaboration, yes, essential. But that's not the ultimate goal of this commission. The ultimate goal of this commission is about representation and resources for the community. So what I see, unfortunately, tonight in the transparency is that you are not collaborating. I see Republicans collaborating with Republicans. I see Democrats collaborating with Democrats. I tend to lean towards the Democrats. But this is not going to affect what you are having this commission do. That you are supposed to provide fair representation and resources to the people within the district. So I guess I don't have to remind you of that. I'm just trying to remind myself when I see the infighting going on here. And I implore all of you, whatever your political stripe is, somehow, and not just a 6-4 vote. I would love to see a unanimous vote on a fair redistricting map. I'm a little confused. The chairman at the beginning said that the website will be updated with information, resources, documents, guidelines. But then when a proposal came up, which to me sounded like that's exactly what the proposal was, you unanimously voted against that. So let me just ask simply, please post on the website as soon as you possibly can and as accurately as you possibly can the population of the legislative districts as of the prior redistricting with demographic information as well as population, and the same information from the current day that you would be considering in any new district maps. And put that on there with clear visual maps, with the data overlay, the boundaries, the street markers, where any average member of the public could go and click on it and see what that district is about, and to look at the demographic information, the ethnic population, the age, the political, the racial population. We need to be able to see that. Now, I assume that you're using that information in your discussions, but you're not disclosing that. That is transparency. And I'll just briefly say, Mr. Koenig, the study that you referenced with the data running the 10,000 scenarios, that I hope that's on the website tonight. I hope that that gets there immediately. That is essential to happen as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. James Hogan? Did I get your last name correct?
No, James Hard.
Okay.
Tell you what, my father and mother named me. I'm gonna take my time. How you doing? Welcome back.
James Hard.
Oh, James is talking. Don't take my time. All right. Thank you, Chair and Commission. I'm here again to just ask about the fairness. And when we talk about fairness, it seemed like some of the same things that was happening before is still happening now. So I'm here to say that, are you just here to be a face? Are you just here to listen to somebody? When you think about history, do you want to be one in history that hurt people? Do you want to be one in history that they talk about now? Won't you take a look at the movie on Netflix called 13? When we talk about certain people that are getting treated certain ways, do you want to be those individuals? Not just them. We're hearing they're trying to do things on a website. You can get someone from the college, an intern, to do your website. You got plenty of money for redistricting. What's taking so long? When we talk about moral compass, what is your moral compass? Where will you find yourself in history? You have time to make that right. Martin Luther King talked about it bending. Where is yours bending or leaning? We talked about disability. If people that have disabilities need to be able to comment from the comfort of their home, that should be a vote tonight. If you really care. When you talk about, again, maps, and if those maps are last maps and they're wrong, well, if you want to wait to the court to make it right, that's sad. When you understand and know what is wrong. Again, remember the movie on Netflix, 13. So I say to you, again and again, you're hearing all of the statistical data, and you've probably done your own data, but if you're just here to be a body, won't you tell them, like I told you last time, I don't want to be on this committee no more. When you talk about how much going on in the beautiful village of Hempstead, I got friends there, I know people, I got family there, but when we talk about money distribution, if you want Hempstead to do even better, cut up the lines right and fair so more funds can go to the village of Hempstead that got more African Americans than the whole county. Okay, so when we talk, we can smile, we can love, but when we're hurting people, look at history. Why does black people and Latinos and other minorities have to keep fighting for what you know is right? Wake up and think about what is right. When you look at your grandchildren and their nieces and nephews and their friends, some of you probably have mixed races in your family. Think. And if you don't have to be a part of who have appointed you, then tell them I'm not doing this no more. It's 2022. Thank you. Chair, have a good night. Thank you very much.
Go back in there for your fan club.
I'm sorry. It seemed like you have a lot that you want to say to this commission. I really appreciate your testimony. At our last hearing, there were many speakers who went past 3 minutes. So if there's anything else that you'd like to add, I want to invite you right now to continue your comments, since we have had other speakers who have gone past the 3 minutes before.
Not gone past the 3 minutes. It's been more than a few minutes. And I'd love to hear from you.
I'm going to turn the AC down for the seniors.
Well, I don't know if you want to drink coffee with me, because let me tell you something. Coffee was real strong when it was black, and when did it get weak? Democrat, you Republican, Independent, Green Party. What's right is right. And my only thing is this, Chairman, and thank you for the extra 10 seconds because people was clapping and laughing. Took my time. I say to you, Chairman, please look at the Netflix movie 13. Please, I just want all of you, please look at it. Why should black people, it's going to tell you that black people was considered, not even a whole human being. Why are you, just because you're appointed by a friend in the Republican Party, why would you just do what they want you to do? You represent your family. My father and mother is gone in heaven, but I pray that I'm representing them well because they taught me well. They were from Alabama, they worked in the cotton fields. I thank God for Mrs. Moore, who worked and did all she did. She is a legend around the world. Again, please do what is right. Don't let your name go down in history as something wrong and being a part of something wrong. You see that now. Of course, they want to erase history and get history out of history class. Don't let your name.
We very much appreciate your comments, and I've listened very carefully to what you have to say, and I'm sure you'd agree with me in wanting everyone else to also have an opportunity.
All right, well, let me finish because I do want everybody else to hear, but I hope you heard what I said too. Okay, thank you very much. And a nice way of cutting me off. But everybody have a good night. And I'm James Hodge. If you did like me before, you don't like me now, take that up with God. I love you.
Mr. Hodge, you made a very good point. The way the demographics work now, and the way the population has changed, there should be 5 majority-minority districts out of the 19 in the county legislature, and there's only 3. There's only 3/5 of the power that you should have. It's ironic.
Would you turn the AC down?
If I may correct one thing on the record. This is being streamed live. This is being streamed live. I just want to make that known to you that people that are home, they have a television that they can work, they can see this live. Okay? That's it. And Daphne Mullally, excuse me. M-U-L-L-A-L-Y?
Yes,
Mullally. Thank you.
Of course, I had to follow him. So. That's right. Yeah, I represent myself. I live in Massapequa. And I just want to say that I'm happy with my representation, but I certainly do feel for people who are not happy with their representation. Just a couple of things I noted tonight. I'm a little bit of a political junkie, but I don't follow all of this. I'm very happy for you people to volunteer. I appreciate you volunteering and it's your personal time, and I'd like people to respect that because I volunteer and I know it's difficult. I was hoping that it would be a little bit more of a more bipartisan committee. I don't know, it just seems like we're not really working together. And I don't, and I just have a question on the maps. You say that the map now is gerrymandered, but the map was made 10 years ago, right? So obviously it's changed, so I'm assuming that's why we're here, to do the redistricting so that it's not gerrymandered. And I would hope that it was done fairly. Everybody seems to come up here and say, assuming that it's not going to be fair, assuming it's going to be gerrymandered, assuming, you know, that that's what's going to be done. And I just think we should give the committee a chance to put the maps together. And I think we learned from the state that the Democrat-held state that they did have gerrymandering and it did go to the courts and then it was overturned. So there is a process. So I think everybody needs to just be respectful of the process. And like I said, I appreciate your time, and hopefully everybody will be happy in the end, but everybody will not be happy. So we can only hope for the best.
Thank you very much for your time. The problem is the process is flawed, because if you run for office in the legislative district, you have to petition to get on the ballot. Petitioning starts in February. The legislature doesn't have to vote on the maps under the law until March. So they can vote on the maps at the very last minute, which would prevent anybody from bringing a lawsuit that thinks it's unfair and bringing it down our throats. So the problem is the process is completely flawed, because since the charter was written, the time for petitioning in the primaries have been moved up, but the charter provisions have not been moved alongside in a parallel manner. So that's why when people here distrust the process, they're looking at a map that's completely gerrymandered now. They're looking at the gerrymandered district of the presiding officer, who alone will control this entire process and what map gets passed by the legislature. So that's why people in this community especially are a little bit skeptical that they're going to be given an equal voice.
Trustee Clarence Griffin.
Corona.
I'm sorry. My eyes aren't really that good, believe me or not. And I apologize for that.
Good evening. It's Trustee Clarona Griffith. I would like to first start off clearing up the last comment. How is this going to be done fair? First of all, Hempstead, Massapequa, what's fair about that? Roosevelt, Franklin Square, what's fair about that? Uniondale, East Meadow, what's fair about that? Elmont, Rockville Center, what is fair about that? Here, first of all, let's start off here, that we started off this, and I thank you to the Democratic chair for pointing out certain things, and I actually took notes, that you already give people white people more time, okay? You give us less time, which is not fair. Then to top it off, you can't even, agree right now on the decision about what to do with the map, giving us an opportunity. This is not going to turn out right already, because if we gave you 1 hour to look at that map, I guarantee you could make a decision on what needs to be done right away. So why is it that you're going to only give us 1 hour to look at it? Why can't you mail it to our home? Why can't you do Zoom? Why can't you do something where it's going to benefit our community for once? And when we talk about 10 years, here's 10 years for you. Where are you going to be? You don't even know. You know why? Because no one knows what happened in 10 years. And anybody that have any business knows that it takes 5 years to develop a business. And when you develop a business in 5 years, 10 years later, now you actually start to see a profit. So every 10 years, you turn around and wait till we start to make our community grow and do certain things, and then you take it away from us. That's what you do. You take it away every 10 years. You come in like this is monopoly, and you take away everything that we work hard to put together, to put it in your favor. But it's not going to happen anymore, because we have people here that is tired of what's being done. 10 years from now, you don't even know if your kids, and I said it before, is going to marry my grandson, or what's going to happen. Guess what? They might be sitting in my yard that you now changed and redistrict and have to struggle just like you got us struggling for the last 10 years. Every time you turn around, you redistrict to be in your favor. But it's not in your favor anymore, because we're going to keep on speaking, we're going to keep showing up, and once again, what is fair about Massapequa and Garden City? Okay, they are fair. But guess what? When you put Hempstead in the works, nothing's fair about that. But you keep using our demographic when you're trying to take money from us. That's why you keep us together. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yes, we're currently accompanied by Noah Burrows, the fellow trustee.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I spoke last time, and I just want to reiterate that I'm speaking to you as an educated, not an elected official. And the same thing goes now as I spoke before, is that, teaching American history, I teach children. I teach them to see the unseen and hear the unheard. And everybody here tonight, they see what's going on. You can close your eyes, you can split this podium right down the middle, and you can see that we're divided. And that's pretty unfortunate. It's been the course of the nature of this country since the founding of it. And I think it's disheartening. So everyone sees what's going on. It's not, we know that it's gerrymandered, right? We know that this current map that you guys are going to come out with, it's designed for us to fail. When I say us, I mean us and minority communities. So I teach to see the unseen. Everyone in here can see it. And it's just not fair. And as Mr. Harris spoke earlier, you guys have to come in here and work together and come up with ideas to work together, not to have your minds made up and decide what you're going to do before you even sit at the table. If that's the case, what's the purpose of even sitting on the committee when you know you have your mind made up already? With that, I'm done.
Thank you very much. Reginald Ben, is it James?
Benjamin.
Benjamin. I see, yes.
Could y'all turn
Reginald
the AC
Benjamin.
down for the seniors in here? It's freezing. Thank you. Appreciate
In
that.
the summertime, you can get like this.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to give me to stand before you on this evening. My name is Reverend Benjamin. I'm Executive Director of Our Leadership Center, which is a faith-based organization. I did have a whole lot that I wanted to say, but sitting here today, looking at you guys and how you are so divided along the lines, it don't look like you can't even get along with each other. So I don't think you're going to be able to do anything to help us, but we're watching you. I'm particularly concerned about my community, particularly the village of Hempstead. We are making great strides there. We have a good population of people. We got good leadership. We don't want you guys to destroy it because you want to put us in a little box. I had a whole lot that I wanted to say. I'm just going to cut it off and do it and say, I'll say ditto to James Hobbs.
A Supreme Mathematics.
I just want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I'm here because I believe one of my mentors sat on this same seat. I believe it was a first commission in 1994, 28 years ago. 28 years ago, they sat here and developed the 19 legislative districts that we live in now. But I do want everyone to understand that we the people of Nassau County make this government. And as we the people, we need representation. And what I want to talk about is basic. The representation we're talking about is 42% minorities living in Nassau County without that representation. There's 42% of minority people, meaning that there should be more than just 2 recognized minority districts. And even in the 3rd district, it's never been recognized as a minority district, even though there's a minority there. When Kerry Salatis beat Salati, it was still known as a regular district. It was never turned on as a minority district. And there's 5 to 6 minority districts in Nassau County. When you do these maps, and I agree they're germinated maps, but when you do these maps, consider the areas that we're not getting representation in, like Nassau People Park, and South Farmingdale, like Pittsville. Let's make sure we get those people representation. The population has changed dramatically in Nassau County. And I just want to let you know that 20% of the population now is Hispanic. There's no Hispanic representation on the legislative district right now. And there's 17% African American. And then the Asians don't have representation. Nor does Indians have any representation. Nassau County has grown and will continue to grow. It's going to continue to grow. And let's be real about the growth of Nassau County. Minorities are going to grow and come to Nassau County because Nassau County has the greatest beaches, the greatest roadways, the greatest sports and entertainment. People are going to come here, so make room for the growth. Make room for the growth because it's going to be here. 10 years from now, it'll probably be 55% minorities because that's the growth rate that we're going on. So what we're asking for is that you guys consider those areas that need representation. The Asian population needs representation. The African American community needs representation. The Caribbean community has now grown so large in the Baldwin area to South Baldwin, Baldwin Harbor, that we need representation. Unionville and Roosevelt and Freeport, we have good representation, but there are more of us that need this. We need to be shown that Nassau County is not a really white community, that is a community of people of diversity. Show that diversity in your map drawing. Do not be black biased on one side, even though we know 53% whites still live here, but that's shrinking rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. George Sharp.
Good evening. I want Mr. Fred Bloomington to speak on my behalf because everything is really rhetorical, everything is repetitive. We don't have the maps. I don't see the purpose of this because the rules and regulations are stated. They're clear. It's black and it's white. Y'all showing black and white up here, clearly to us. So I don't know what more there is really to say until we get the maps to see what's fair and what's not fair. It's all rhetorical for me. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Fred Bloomington is going to take my 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
If you want Mr. Brewington to join you, we would certainly.
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion that at the request of the speaker, Mr. Burlington be allowed to speak on her behalf? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't just give Fred Brewington the full time. I feel only have 2.5 minutes. Okay, can I make a motion, Fred? We got to reset the clock, Fred?
I'm just going to ask, I think that there are a number of people that wanted to yield their time to me. Are there any people in here that will yield their time to me? Okay, so I'll take all that time too.
Frankly, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but we do not have a rule on yielding time.
You don't have a rule against it, do you? Don't try and play lawyer with me. I watched what you did in other communities.
What I did?
Yes, you and everybody else, Lottie-Dottie and everybody. And I'm not going to allow you to come in here and steamroll over a community that is going to be beset by what you plan to do.
Well,
you're going to hear me. You're going to hear me, sir. No, you're going to hear me.
I am hearing you.
And you're going to let me speak, and you're not going to interrupt me, because the community here has been through decades of abuse. And your approach here, I'm not even starting, please stop the clock, I'm not even starting my comments, because you should be ashamed of yourselves. You should be ashamed of yourselves the way you have approached this process thus far. It's supposed to be a process where the people have an opportunity to be fully and fairly heard, and to have an opportunity to be involved in a process. This is not a process. It's an abuse. And what you have done, Mr. Chairman, all due respect, there is no reason why you have done what you have done in terms of just shoving things down people's throats. This is not democracy. It's autocracy. And you need to be ashamed of yourselves the way you're conducting yourselves. And I would encourage you to hear the words of James Hodge. I would encourage you to hear the words of Sister Moore. I would encourage you to realize the fact that there is a historical precedence that's going on right now that you will have to come to grips with at some point. Commissioners, Dr. Moore, Mother Boosby, members of the Assembly, my Assemblywoman, members of the clergy, everybody in this chamber needs to understand that I'm a resident of Nassau County, born and raised, came up in Lakeview, and rode the streets on a bicycle with holes in my sneakers. But because of the fact that there are people in this room today that decided to stand up and fight when voting rights became important, we have change and brought change here. Gooseby versus the town of Hempstead. NAACP versus the County Board of Elections. In Suffolk County, Montana versus the county of Suffolk. In Suffolk County, Flores versus the town of Iceland. Do I need to talk about the victories that we've had to stand up to fight for? And every one of them, because of what people did for me, I had the opportunity to stand in a courtroom before an august body and say, this community will not be abused anymore. On my wrist, I wear a band. It says, make every vote count. Is somebody going to yield me there 3 minutes? Thank you.
Can you identify which persons?
Sure. That would be Bishop Harvey.
Because we also have slips up here, and I just want to make sure that we have the right people.
Yes, thank you.
You didn't have a clock the last 2 meetings. Why do you have one now?
Mr. Mckenna, you'll get your turn. Continue, Mr. Frederick. Please continue.
When we have discord in the house cannot stand. When we have disrespect for one another, even to the point of having full voice, the house cannot stand. And when you build a house on a rotten foundation, say it with me, family. And that's what we're doing right now. On my wrist, there's a bracelet that I wear. It says, make every vote count. And that's been something that's been part of everything that I believe we stand for as a democracy. But as a democracy, this is not what we should be looking like. Right now, I am very concerned that as we look and deal with this petty partisan political process, that's 4 Ps. That far too often we are finding ourselves taking a back seat. And in some cases having no seat when it comes to equity and justice. Those are words I haven't heard echoed in this chamber yet. Equity and justice should rule the day.
That's right.
They should be on every one of your lips first to be able to be brought to the people and say, we stand for equity.
That's right.
We stand for justice. Instead, you fight saying you can't put information out so that mothers who are at home and can't even get out of their house can't figure out what's going on for their grandchildren. Shame on you. And shame on the votes that vote against that. Every single one of you. The reality is that Nassau County and the great opportunity before you to get the right starts with starting over. What happened 10 years ago was wrong.
That's right.
Simply because you say, well, that's the way things are, doesn't mean that it's right. If that were the case, I'd be right now in a cotton farm or in a factory doing something, baling something, but you'd have to take me down. Because the reality is that what you have done right now, what you're creating right now, is a bad history. And the problem is that you're all unnoticed about it. There's no hiding here. Don't think that I'm not paying attention. Don't think that in this situation, when I ask you the question, how is it that given the monumental impact of the shift in the population of racial composition in Nassau County, that you only have one hearing scheduled initially in the communities that are most affected? I heard that you changed your mind tonight, and I'm all for that. But initially there were 17 that were proposed. And now you're going to give us 3 more? You can shut that one off. If somebody will give me that 3 minutes. Thank you, sir. The corridor does count. Hempstead, Freeport, Roosevelt, Lakeview, Elmont, North Valley Stream, and everybody else that makes up the corridor, you cannot make a determination that you're simply going to give them lip service. Lip service is not enough. Here's a question. If your intent is to seek input and properly and fully educate and the most affected communities, how is it that your website, even at this late stage in the redistricting process, is not transparent and educational? education is part of your job. You're supposed to not only hear from us, but you're supposed to give us information to do the work. There's not a single map. There's not a single chart. There's not a single piece of information about districts. No lines are drawn. And we, at this point, don't even know what we're talking about. And neither do you. The problem is that without that information, no one in this, not even a PhD, can make a determination on what's important right now in this process. We're arguing in space, and space is so vast without any strictures. So here's the problem. With no maps and the numbers to relate to those maps not being available for review and analysis, how is it that you expect the public, from plumber to PhD, to even come before you and speak to the core matters that are substantive in terms of representation? Because that's what it is about. Representation. Fair, equal, proper, respectful, democratic, constitutional, statutory representation. And what you have done thus far defies the Voting Rights Act of 1965, defies the brand new Voting Rights Act under the state of New York, and I can't wait to January 1st. It defies the Constitution, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. And we stand here because of those, and yet America turned its back and ripped up the check and required the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and you still defy that. What do you expect from a people that have been disenfranchised for so long? You cannot expect me to apologize for the way I fight back. Because when you do and disrespect people, you cannot expect them to pull back and say, beat me some more. Give me one more 3 minutes and I'll be done. Anybody else?
Right here.
Tell me your name.
Then you're right.
Thank you.
Report.
I'll be done in 3 minutes. John Kearse looms large in this room. And I mention the name so we don't forget where we came from. There are ancestors that stand over us right now that say that you have a responsibility to hear those voices too. To care for your children, who very well may end up marrying somebody else's daughter in here. But the impact that it has on their families is not for tomorrow, it's for today. Because what you do today sets the history for tomorrow. Home Rule Section 34(4)(e) does say districts shall not be drawn to discourage competition or for the purpose of favoring and disfavoring incumbents or other particular candidates that they want to try and lift up. If a partisan map like that one comes out, you can anticipate that every one of you will have to be called to be given a deposition.
Yes, sir.
I want to be clear. This is not a threat. I want to be clear. The world is watching little Nassau County right now. You've got an opportunity to get this right.
That's right.
You have an opportunity not to allow this time to be squandered away. You have an opportunity to make sure that history does not write you down on the wrong side. Do this with a heart of change. Do this with a heart of compromise. Don't do this with a heart of partisanship and racial gerrymandering. Because if you do,
We're coming to get you.
if you do,
If you do.
God's judgment, preacher.
if you do,
If you do.
if you do,
If you do.
if you do,
If you do.
you And I will submit my written submission for you. I bought 25 copies, but I don't like the way it came out after listening to this. I'm going to write it again.
Mr. Burlington, thank you very much for everything you've done for everybody in Nassau County and Long Island throughout your career, and your legal career especially. You are a gift to us, and you've certainly taken gifts. And you have used your talents wisely, and gifts like that, David. Thank you so much. And they say too much as expected, and you've exceeded expectations. So, you started out by talking about the lawsuits that have actually been brought to bring justice to people here on Long Island. And part of so when you use the legal system, right, to bring justice to people, and for those in power who want to stop people who are not empowered from getting more power, you rig the system so you can't bring a lawsuit. So now, the maps aren't due to be voted on by the legislature until March 7th, but petitioning starts in February. So if at the last minute the legislature passes maps, it would significantly hamper your ability to bring a lawsuit, because the judge could say it causes too much chaos, this election, we're going to have to wait till the next one.
Let me stop you. And Mr. Bates, we're learning counsel. You got Mr. Peter B. here. Peter, you guys represented the village of Garden City, right?
At one time we did. Mr. Burlington, I just want to say...
I want to answer his question, and I'll come back to your question. That's true in terms of the outcome, but it's not true in terms of bringing in the lawsuit. And what you're really talking about is the impact, the immediate impact that would come, particularly in state courts, with regard to trying to deal with that election at that time. I don't necessarily run the sprint, I do the long run.
That's right.
And the Voting Rights Act and the other statutory requirements that bring us into federal court don't allow the political partisanship and appointing judges that we have in state court to rule the day. We go to a higher court, one that's higher than New York State, then eventually go to the highest court. And we stand on that. There's a community here that is faith-based. And based on the faith, we understand that this battle is not over yet. There are reasons why Fannie Lou Haman's memory stands in my mind. So when you ask that question, you're right. For the immediate election, the timing is bad, but I tell you what, make the decision that's wrong, the timing is going to be bad no matter what you do.
But the ability to get immediate relief from a bad decision or bad policy is going to be severely hampered by the current calendar. So that's why that's why the Democratic minority submitted legislation to move up the
And
case.
every one of your moves is, just so you know, I looked at each one of them, by the way. I had a chance to just study them. Every one of them was intended to enhance democracy, not stomp it out. Mr. B.
You know, Mr. Burlington, you and I have dealt with each other professionally for a long time.
On the other side of cases.
May I speak?
Yes, sir.
I've always thought of you as not only an excellent attorney, but a person of integrity and a person who does right as God gives you the ability to see right.
Yes, sir.
I thought you thought similarly of me. I would be disappointed to feel otherwise.
So I'm not here to talk about personalities. What I'm here to do is, and both you and I share a common interest, right? We're both trekkers. We like Star Trek. But one of the things that I know is that when actions defy logic, as Spock tells us, that then all truth must come forward. Because there is no greater truth than the logic that follows the truth. And I follow the logic that leads me to the truth. And the truth is that when you vote down a resolution that simply says, let's give people more opportunity and information, that is not logical.
Thank you for your excellent advocacy.
What do you have to say about that?
Mr. Burlington.
Yes, sir.
From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us here. I'm very moved by your testimony, and I'm very grateful to have your involvement in this process and your voice here to educate this commission. I have said, I'm sorry. I have said many times that I believe, and I think many people in this room believe, that you are the Thurgood Marshall of Long Island. And your record backs that up. You have litigated every voting rights case here on Long Island successfully. And it's remarkable, and the service that you have provided to this county and to our island is deeply, deeply important. I also understand that you have a role as a professor. You teach law at law schools, you educate members of the community, and I would like to ask you to take a few more moments to educate this body, specifically on the requirements of the Voting Rights Act. As you know, from your wealth of experience litigating cases under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, there are a variety of requirements. The law requires courts to evaluate under the totality of the circumstances whether communities of color have less opportunity to participate in the political process and to elect candidates of their choice. And I was hoping you could take a moment or two to educate this commission on what that means, and educate this commission on the types of evidence that are relevant when courts make that determination.
Broadway versus Jingle Supreme Court case. Please write it down if you haven't read it. All of you, I would encourage you, write it down. Broadway versus Jingle. No? Okay.
We're going to be putting that on the drive. It's on the drive already. So if you have that QR code, you can look up this case.
If there was an interest in really being educated in this situation, I would encourage folks to just take a pen and write down Thornburg versus Jingles. In Thornburg versus Jingles, the court made it very clear that under the Senate, the United States Senate put out what are called conditions, preconditions, the Senate factors. The Senate factors were some 12 or 13 different subcomponents of what could be supporting a Voting Rights Act case. In the case Gooseby versus the town of Hempstead, the plaintiffs in that case did not prove 13. They proved 23. And what they did was they looked at things such as housing, school districts, voting records, access to the ballot. They dealt with issues of policing. They dealt with issues of distribution of monies, including HUD funds that are meant for one community and go someplace else. They looked at other issues that related to access to health care. And I'll tell you the numbers from the coronavirus for the African American and Hispanic community are abysmal. They will make a case in the voting rights claims. So all of those, and many more, are factors that help to make the fabric of what is evaluated by a court. Not just whether or not a map itself is disruptive to the electoral process, but whether or not those communities have systematically and systemically been deprived of access to full, fair, equal, and equitable representation. And that's what we're asking. No, I'm not asking you, I'm demanding.
Yes.
That you stop what you're doing. Stop this partisan policy practice. And get down to brass tacks. Represent the people, whether or not they're black, blue, or polka dot. Represent them in your work. So that when you turn something over to the legislature, you give Mr. Nicolello, I gotta get re-elected again, whatever his name is. That it's not okay. It's not okay to play games with our children's future. Because that's why we're standing here. That's why Emily Moore worked so hard to her fingers to the nub of the bone, why Dorothy Gooseby stays where she is so we don't lose what we had gained, because stuff just gets stolen from us. And thieves in the night, we're tired of that. Take your headlights off my house.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and I very much appreciate how you walked us through all of the different categories, some of the categories of disparities that are relevant. You mentioned housing, policing, income disparities, all of these different types of disparities. Could you explain to this commission why it is that all of these disparities in all other areas of life, unfairness in campaigns, racial appeals in campaigns, other sorts of limitations, barriers to the ballot, how is that relevant? And how should that be relevant to us as a commission when we think about what the map should look like and how we should draw the lines?
You are required under the Voting Rights Act to take those into consideration as you do your work. I'm not saying optional. It is a mandate because of the historical references that we deal with that brought us to Reconstruction. Because of what took place that caused the need for the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. We started on an uneven playing field. It remains uneven. And as long as you are looking at 48% of people of color in Nassau County only having 3 elected spots on a 19-person legislature, it still remains uneven. It doesn't give, and by the way, I'll just answer your question. What it does is it helps to demonstrate how unfair the processes are that are controlled by the political machinations that are going on in that district. Because right now, every one of you know, some of you I know very personally, that 5 minority-majority seats are not possible. They are exactly true. You can draw 5 seats right now. Why? Because I've done it. And I'm waiting for you not to do it. I'm waiting. And that's not a threat. That's a truism. And please take that back to Mr. Michelello as well. Let them step in the caca and then try to wipe it off their shoes.
Thank you, Mr. Burlington. Thank you, Councilwoman, for being here, and I appreciate your help. If you don't mind, we have a lot more speakers who want to have an opportunity to talk without cutting you off. Please.
Chair, I have one final question for Mr. Burlington while we can benefit from his.
I'll make it short.
So, Mr. Burlington, you had mentioned and talked about these factors, these Senate factors that a court would consider when deciding whether a map violates Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. You walk through many of the categories. In your view, as the leading civil rights lawyer on Long Island, do you believe that there is evidence to satisfy the standard laid out by the Supreme Court in Thornburg v. Jingles that those Senate factors are present here in Nassau County?
I don't think so. I know so. As a matter of fact, under the Voting Rights Act, if there's partisan gerrymandering that takes place, and as I see what's happening, about to happen, I understand where we can stay with that as your standard, that map that's over there. Racial gerrymandering is going to elevate the issues. So the answer to your question, Commissioner Perry, is absolutely, and just so you know, this stuff isn't done like overnight. We evaluate this as time goes on. And when we saw that there was an actual change in demographics from 73 non-Hispanic white in Nassau County to 58% non-Hispanic white in the past decennial, if you don't take that into consideration and consider that the Voting Rights Act requires you to know that the communities of color now are busting at the seams, that's trouble. That's trouble. And I just hope, no, I pray that you wake up tomorrow morning, the grass will be green, the sun will shine, and you will say, I need to turn over a new leaf and hear the beck and call. Because this is the time. This is the time.
Thank you, sir. Alina, you
I would like to make a brief motion first to permit anybody who yields the time to Mr. Burlington to at least have an opportunity to come up and speak I don't believe that anybody should be denied their right to testify before this commission just because they wanted to allow Mr. Brewington an extra few minutes. So I would make that motion and ask that my fellow commissioners join me in at least inviting those individuals to say a few words if they would like to.
We have the cards here. I believe the bishop has left. And the only other person would be Selena Hendrickson. So,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, there's a motion and a second.
I'm trying to put some substance to your motion rather than just nice words. Okay? Is that okay? Please. Thank you. So those are the people who. So Bishop Lionel Harvey is not here, and is Selena Hendrickson here? Okay. So the motion is that you want her to come up and speak.
My motion is any of the individuals who yielded time to Mr. Brewington should be permitted to have an opportunity to address this body.
May I suggest that after speakers who have not yet been heard from, either on their own or through Mr. Brewington, after those speakers have been heard, we can return, and anyone who had yielded time to Mr. Brewington may then be heard again.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I don't understand why this is so complicated. I just to allow anybody who's submitted a card to be invited to come up and speak in a second. I would ask that we have a roll call vote on this resolution at this time.
All I'm suggesting is an amendment to the motion so that we hear from people who have not yet spoken first.
So may we have some order, please? Please.
Our relationship status it's complicated.
No, it's. Now, I'm going to make this easier. The people who gave Mr. Brewington time, could you just stand up? Okay, that's two over there, that's three. No, you already spoke though, man. Okay, so you all want to come up and speak?
Mr. Chair, please.
You want to come up and speak? I'm inviting you to come up and speak.
Everything we need to be said from our community. Thank you.
Okay, so there's no need for a motion?
No.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Thank you. Now, Alina, your turn.
Hi everyone. I honestly think I came to the wrong meeting, but it was very enlightening. And no, but seriously, I was asked by my community to come to a redistricting meeting, and unfortunately, there was not, just like everyone was saying here, there's not enough information online to know where people should go. So I come from Roslyn Heights. I moved here 7 years ago from Brooklyn, and we are a community called Roslyn Country Club. However, we don't have a country club, and we don't have any sort of club. We're just called that because since 1940s, we were named that, for 8 decades now. So why I'm here is we're concerned. We looked at the redistricting plan, and we see that it really affected our little neighborhood of Roslyn Heights. Being established in the 1940s, as far as we remember, we have never been part of 2 districts. But the adopted district map shows that now a chunk of our little tiny community will belong to District 1, the town District 1, while a smaller chunk will be District 2. And that's particularly unacceptable because it will limit our little community's residents to have a single elected official who can effectively represent our interests. In addition, as per New York State Constitutional Article 3, 4, and 5, state law requires that the Redistricting Commission take into consideration and preserve communities of interest, which I think a lot of people here talk about that as well. You have failed to take into consideration that we're a community with historical and environmental interests. We share a social and historical background and characteristics. We're not a village. We're not any kind of a township. All we have is this name, Roslyn Country Club, even though we don't have anything that, establishes that. And now we've been split into two. So I'm here to represent my community. I hope that this commission and the town commission, if you guys can talk to them, the town of North Hempstead, I hope that it will keep this, community of interest in mind when you guys do the legislative redistricting. The division of our community will really affect us. I know that the task of map drawing is a difficult one, and concerns of all Long Island communities are important. Every single one that I heard about here, I feel like I was at a civil rights event, and I just truly hope that, like what everyone said here, you guys will do the right thing for all the communities. So I'm here to represent mine, and I hope I'm, at the right place. I urge you to reassess the map and take action to ensure that our community and all the others that are represented here is not unduly divided. Thank you.
I have a question, if I may. You were talking about a proposed map that proposes to divide your community, and I'm not familiar with what map that is.
I gave the map to the lady. I printed two maps, the current one and the proposed one.
Who has proposed that map?
It's our town of North Hempstead.
Ah.
So since 1940s, we've been one community, and we have never been two districts, and we have now been divided. A chunk of our community is going to be District 1, and another chunk is going to be District 2 for the council.
Yes, and I
know that I feel like it's the legislative.
Right, this is the commission that will advise the county
That's because
on.
I got confused by the Instagram post that legislator Arnold Drucker posted.
And I'm sure, as you may be aware, that the town of North Hempstead is the democratically controlled commission that has proposed those maps.
Honestly, to be honest, we are a very 50-50 community. 50% Democrat, 50% Republican, so I'm not going to talk partisan here. I honestly don't want to. I feel that Republicans have done a lot of harm to, black communities of Long Island, but I'm here about my community and just,
I would also like to avoid getting into partisan mudslinging, and let's stick with development.
Okay, Mayor Wayne Hobbs Jr.
Whalen.
Oh, I'm sorry, Wayland.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I understand the wrong name because it's been going on all night, so I don't take it personally. I'm here as the mayor of the largest village, not only in the state of New York, but in the country. And I'm just asking that this temporary committee would hear the concern and the voice of the people and do what's right. When I ran for office, I ran on the promise of making sure that we brought resources to our community. And the only way that I was able to bring resources is when you have the right elected officials that understand the needs of the community and send them resources. We started fixing roads, our sewer, our infrastructure. So it's important that as we do this, that we do what's right for the community. Hempstead is a very diverse community. We have a large population of African American, Latino, and we still have Caucasians. We have Asians that's moving in our community. So it's a diverse community. And I can understand how innocently someone asked the question, why can't we trust the system or the process? But we know when we look at the process of this country, what's happening in Mississippi, what's happening in Flint, Michigan, the process does not always work for our people. And so that's why we're passionate to make sure that you do the right thing by our people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A. Scotty Bardeen Pose.
I just want to thank you and the trustees for the great job you're doing here in the village. As a business owner here in the village, you guys have been incredible, so thank you.
And so, commissioners, we meet again. No maps? This is your and we still don't see any maps. And what we see is very gerrymandering. I'm going to get right to the point. My name is H. Scotty Codes, Gordine Codes. I'm the chair of civic engagement for NAACP New York State. What do we want? What we want is to have individuals elected or already in place with the fight to protect our community. Representatives that we can trust that's going to fight for us. Fred and many of the other speakers said already what I would be saying. I should have just vetoed everything. I'm going to get back to the gerrymandering part of all of this. You can't seem to draw lines that would be fair to every community, especially my black and brown community. So, I'm concerned about that. And the gerrymandering part, commissioners, we have, and I speak to all of you, we have 3 minority-majority communities. Everything has increased, the population has gone up, and we know that we're entitled, and we feel we're entitled to more districts. I would say 5, minimum of 5. That was said already by Mr. Brewington and some others. I think Mr. Hodge spoke about it. The population was 53,891 in 2010. The 2010 census revealed that. By 2019, we had 55,113. Population has increased to 59,169. That took 3 minutes already?
I'll give her my time.
Thank you.
Hey, Casey Moylo.
Okay.
I again request that we have more districts. And I would say to the audience here, although my back is turned to you, be diligent with all of the dates that we have to show up to show these people that we're not playing.
That's right.
We're for real. We fought too hard to make sure that we get counted in every aspect of government. And so, we should make sure that we show up. There are only 5 or 6 meeting places. We have 19 districts, but yet we'll only get allowed 5 or 6 places that our voices can be heard. Our citizens, our senior citizens, are the forgotten people. You see this young man? He stood with me at the hearing in Mineola. He was an infant in a stroller when we testified before. And of course it meant nothing to any of you. But now he is the vice president of the Youth Council and Lakeview branch of the NAACP. That's right. And so I say to you, commissioners, I agree with the person who said it looks like you can't get it together. So you can't get it together, how are you going to get it for us? You got to do better. we're tired. You know, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was chopped away June 23rd, 2013. And some of the same people who are against it now voted in 2006 to reinstate it. Why do we have to fight for everything that we get and accomplish? We have to fight. And I say to you, you gotta get it together. We're not playing. We're going to show up wherever we have to. And if we have to go to that special place in Mineola, we will pack the room too. We're ready. We're ready to fight. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Madam
Sally, I just want to say that I remember 10 years ago, you standing at the ledge with this young man when he was in a stroller. And I was on that side with you, if you recall, and with Mr. Burlington. And I just want to thank you both for keeping up the good fight for people in our communities, for fighting for fairness and justice. I want to thank you both for that.
And we're a little bit angry too, so we're not stopping. Thank you.
And you should not stop. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Ms. Narday?
What's up? Where does one begin? Me to J. Narday? Let's see. JP Morgan Chase CEO, Jamie Dimon, was recently out on Long Island, and he said America's first suburb, which is Long Island, is sadly, to his way of thinking, America's most segregated suburb, and it continues to have toxic implications. That's coming from corporate America today. I'm proud to be in a state where we have a voting rights law named John R. Lewis. It saddens me that our U.S. Senate did not step up to the plate for its own former member and a lion in the battlefield for civil rights. I stand on his shoulders. And as Mr. Burlington said, Fannie Lou Hamer, I stand on her shoulders. I stand on the shoulders of the former representative from the state of Texas, Barbara Jordan, who said, "Is this not America?" Again, I was at that first meeting. I was there with Scotty, with that young man, 10 years ago, when we had high hopes, great expectations, and they were dashed. I was at the meeting in August when I said to this body, I have no confidence in this process whatsoever. It will be rubber stamped. I'm not going to waste too much more time with that discussion. But it was inverted upon me that I should come to this hearing because we will be going to court. It is a given. We already know this. But as many have said, more eloquently than I, we are ready. We are waiting. We will be there. My concern, again, since I hope that more of the residents here, because this, again, is not the group that makes the decision. You need to be at the Nassau County Legislature on a regular basis every 2 weeks, because they're soon going to be deciding a basic $3.4 billion budget that will impact our communities. That's where you need to be. My concern is that this body is going to present a biased, gerrymandered package that the Nassau County Legislature, with that presiding officer that was so eloquently outlined by Mr. McKenna, is going to vote for that package, not in January, but in November. They're going to make it easy for themselves. We're not going to have an opportunity to review the map. You think you had no time here? Trust me, you will have no time. So you need to step up now. You need to be in their face now, and you need to let it be known now that we're not going to settle for a crap map. We're not going to settle for gerrymandering and business as usual. So for those of us who do have other things that we have to do in caregiving and advocating, we have to get back on the battlefield. Because finally, as John, the former senator from the state of Georgia, said, nothing can stop the power of a committed and determined people to make a difference in our society. Why? Because human beings are the most dynamic link to the divine on the planet. With God on our side, no justice, no peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Mckenna.
I am Kevin Mckenna. I am a community advocate here in Nassau County, and I'm also the founder of Nassau County NY News. If you want to know everything that these folks over here don't want you to know, just go on Nassau County NY News on Facebook. I have been working the last 2 weeks to get the meeting dates out, and I've made some accomplishments with the clerk of the Nassau County Legislature, Michael Pulitzer. But it's clear to me that Michael Pulitzer is being obstructed by whoever he needs to go to get the information put on the website. Okay? Now, sir, first of all, I want to thank the Democrats, and I'm choking saying this right now, but I want to thank you for everything that you're trying to do. Okay? In the second meeting that took place, there was a recommendation by a resident that autobiographies be put up about all of you. I know who most of you are, and now I know who most of you are, and all your information, your background, is going to be posted on Nassau County NY News. These people here on the left side, okay, they were put here by the Republican Party to protect the power, as was said before. Okay? They are not going to represent any of you because they have too much at risk. That woman right there, Miss Fitzgerald, her family is employed in the town of Oyster Bay. There are four family members that make over $1 million a year to your family, okay? Why don't you, if you don't mind, I'm going to relinquish my time. Why don't we start and just tell the folks the name of the town that you live in, and let's go across. What town do you live in? Would you mind saying the town?
This is for you to speak, not for us.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to tell you right now, sir. You and I came to know you on the phone the other day when you returned my phone call. Okay? And I'm going to tell the folks right now, let me speak, please. Let me speak.
Is that the phone message that you hung up on me?
Let me speak, please.
Okay.
Let me speak, please. This is my time. Okay? The last meeting at the city of Glen Cove was canceled the day before the meeting. I want you all to know this, folks. People were going to the city of Glen Cove for the last meeting. And the day before the meeting, at the last minute, the meeting got canceled. So I called up City Hall, and I got a deputy person from Glen Cove City Hall on the phone. And I told them that they should be concerned that people might still be coming to the city of Glen Cove because the meeting just got canceled. And you called me back, and you had no idea who you were calling back. And I got you on the phone, and I tried to explain to you the problems with the website. And you know what he said to me? This man right here said to me, I am not getting in the weeds with you. I don't want to know what the problems are with the website. That's what that man that's in charge of this committee told me on the telephone. All right? You said to me, we're not getting in the weeds. Didn't you say that? Did you say to me that we're not getting in the weeds? Did you say that to me on the phone?
I will not elevate you higher than you think you are.
Sir, you are the most arrogant, corrupt individual that I have met in Nassau County after that conversation that we had on the telephone. You are not here to represent these people. You are here to represent the Republican Party. They put you here to obstruct to obstruct this process. And these folks over here, are you allowed to speak? Do you talk? Do you talk? Mr. Cheryl, do you ever talk? Do you have a brain? Because you don't return phone calls, emails at the town of Oyster Bay. You are the highest paid commissioner in the town of Oyster Bay, and you do not return phone calls and emails. So why are you volunteering your time here when you're not doing your job in the town of Oyster Bay? Who are you?
All right. Can I just say something? Like when you go to law school, they teach you, like, if you lose to the facts in the law, like, attack the person. So the facts in the law are clearly on our side here, and what Mr. Fitzgerald's family does or doesn't do for a living is irrelevant. So I don't think personally. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. This is not a place to personally. This is not a forum to personally attack people on this commission, regardless of what the party is. We are better than that. The facts of the law are on our side. Let's take it down a notch, please, and let's not bring people's families into this discussion.
Mr. Chairman, you have the names of the committee people hidden on the website, which I found, and now I'm going to post it. Why don't you put your biographies next to your names so we know who is representing us? Why don't you do that?
Please finish.
Would you do that?
No.
Why not? Okay. At the last meeting, you came this close to saying, I don't even think you realize it, I have it on video. You actually said at the last meeting that we're going to listen to you, but we're probably not going to redraw any districts. You said that right out of your mouth. You are nothing but somebody to obstruct this process. And you, and every one of you, if we...
Please finish up as other speakers who want to speak.
We want this to happen. Every one of you need to be removed from this committee. Every one of you. Because there's no chance that this is going to get done fair with any of you on this committee. And I suggest that you all resign and put people on this committee that are going to do the right thing, because it's not you. Thank you very much.
Live down. No, I'm sorry again. Senior?
No, senior.
Senior.
I'm senior in high school.
All right, I'm not going to take 3 minutes. I'm just going to take this on. I do know that if I went to my job and I had a presentation and I didn't have the PowerPoint or the information for that presentation, I'd probably be looking for another job. The fact that we're talking about redistricting and about a map and how it's going to affect our lives for the next 10 years and not have that information to provide for the public is despicable. The second thing is that we're going to be affecting a lot of communities, and when you redistrict the county and when you put communities of colors and you split them up, the thing is that you're talking about money. So if you have a large constituent and you're able to go to them, you're going to have to be responsible to them. However, if you split them up, you don't really have to be responsible. I live in Lakeview, and our roads are despicable. But if it was 50,000 people over there, you're going to want to be committed to those people, and you're going to hold them accountable. And I just feel that if you split up these communities, you're not going to really be committed to them. And I think it's really unfortunate that communities of color are always being disadvantaged. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Diana Abadi. Abadi. I'm going to get one right this today.
Good evening, Commission. I sent a letter during the first hearing and was admitting all that, so I will try to differentiate my language. The first thing I want to point out is there's only one door that's open to get into the building. Not only is that a fire hazard, but we've already closed off access again. So in addition to switching the dates, switching the locations, telling folks at the last minute when this information is going to be happening, when this information is available, when they can come and speak about redistricting. We've already flubbed that part. I also want to uplift that it's 2022. I'm 29 years old. I would like to think that I'm one of the very few tech-savvy individuals. I had the hardest time using Nassau County's website about this commission. I included that in my letter. That was, when you had that meeting in Mineola, that's when I sent that letter. Today, during this meeting, it took me 10 minutes, and not for nothing, my phone is real shitty. It still took me 10 minutes to get to the commission's website to find individuals' names. I don't even know if all of you have emails, because when I sent my first letter, I was a part of a thread in which some of the commissioners didn't have accurate emails. So I can't even accurately communicate to you what my concerns are. And there's a nice guarantee, I got a nice response, that my letter would be shared, but quite frankly, after the exchange that I just watched between a very clear motion being made, no one here, how many of y'all have legal degrees other than the third Brewington? Y'all understood what the motion was, right? We understood what the motion was, what happened? But I'm supposed to trust you to redraw my district. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will not allow you to mess up again, because apparently this already happened 10 years ago. Like I said, I'm 29 years old. I've done the research myself. The city, Long Island loves to talk a whole bunch of mess about the city. They had numerous meetings about redistricting last year. Last year, I was able to get more information about how Queens, where my cousins live, how Bronx, how Brooklyn is going to be affected by redistricting last year. And now I'm coming to a meeting in September to discuss maps that have not been presented to the public and will be voted on supposedly maybe in March. Unacceptable, disgraceful, an embarrassment. And I can only imagine that there are a bunch of legal minds, but let me tell you something, having a legal mind does not mean that you have a heart. And it is very clear that there's a little bit of love missing in this commission. It is very clear that there's a little bit too much of the legal jargon being thrown around, because that's how you guys get stuck in the weeds. That's how y'all mess up. My time is fucked up. But the woman that was here for Master People, I really wish that she had the courage to stay and sit with us and hear a little bit more about why we're upset, because that's the other problem that we have in this county. We know we're segregated. We know there's a problem. And we like to pretend that redistricting will not affect our schools, our housing, our environment. We had Newsday do an op-ed 2 years ago about how housing was a problem. Those decisions, those housing policies are made at the legislature. Tonight there were supposed to be 3 other meetings in the village and the town. So how is our community supposed to represent ourselves when you told us last week that there's supposed to be a meeting in which our district could be changed?
Brianna, could you just wrap it up, please?
Oh, of course.
Thank you.
So as I was saying, we have a lack of representation. I'm 29 years old. My community is not here. When I say my community, I don't just mean the black community, I don't just mean women, I mean 29-year-olds. I mean millennials, the next largest voting bloc of Nassau County. That was the other, if that's the more of the information. I am the next person that's going to be here, and I did not have the opportunity to get my community to come out. I don't understand why there's not a virtual option. And even if there were virtual options, they suck currently. I don't understand why these commissions are not being held at colleges where more people can attend, where there is more space, where we can get the next generation of voters to participate. Because I'll tell you something, both sides love to talk about the next generation, but you do absolutely nothing to get us here. You do absolutely nothing. And it's an embarrassment. It's a waste of time, and now we're going to go to court wasting taxpayer dollars. Because you know what you're doing is wrong. You know what you're doing is wrong, but you would rather waste money because apparently y'all got it. And let's be honest, if you were paying for this yourselves individually as commissioners, you'd have been done, and you'd have been done it correctly. Because you don't want that bill on your heads. And now instead, you're putting it on ours. That is not fair. Get it together, y'all. Most of you are twice my age. I should not have to talk to my elders like this. Do better.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The county does control the community college. It is the Nassau County Community College. The county legislature does control it. So maybe we should have a meeting there so we can engage younger people in this process. But the problem is, the problem is, like, when you gerrymander districts and people think the system's rigged, they don't want to participate, right? So that's part of the problem that we have here with the lack of transparency. People don't believe that the system works for them. They think this is all rigged, which it probably is, quite frankly. And so the districts that are gerrymandered. That's why young people don't think they can make a difference by voting, because they think it's already been rigged. So maybe we should have a meeting at Nassau Community College to get your generation out.
We got two left. Mary Ellen Craig. Could I get you, Mary Ellen Craig?
They actually shut down media coverage. No News 12 here, because they had that happen. They have so much power, they shut down the media.
I would just like to commend that young lady for her passion, and it gives me great hope for the future. I just wanted to say that this is the second hearing that I've attended, and what I hear is that people want unity, and I come from Uniondale, which is all about unity and working together. It's terribly important to us for that unity to be kept. And we do not want to see the districts for our villages and hamlets to be separated. And they do not want to see any mystical beasts when they look at the map and realize that that represents their districts. It's extremely important. I think you have a civic responsibility, and I hope that you are taking it more seriously than it appears. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Pierce Johnson.
Let's go.
I brought you some maps.
Uh-oh.
Can you pass that to them? I hope I have enough. Good evening. My name is Mary Johnson from Elmont. And I am so happy that Freddie Williamson is here. He taught me how to fight in a way that all the way back to New York, we were able to bring Elmont and Valley Street back to Nassau County. Because here's a little story. 10 years ago, now 11, those of us in Elmont realized that we weren't being taken care of like most of other affluent areas in Long Island. So we decided we were going to run for office, we were going to engage and participate in our civic duties. And I was rewarded by having 2 election districts on my street. So if you look up Crystal Street in Elmont, before we just had this state fight, you had Senate 7 on one side of the street, Senate 7-9 on the other side. Just like right now, we had a commission, we had the ledge. Peter was there, so many others that are no longer with us. We told our story. We were all there. We're a little bit older now, but I know I'm a little bit wiser. Because you're gonna look at me, you're gonna smile, you're gonna say thank you. You probably don't understand the map that I just gave you, but let me tell you. The little short one that's compact, that's how it was before they bamboozled us and gave us the snake that you see on the second half. So what the reward was for us to get involved in our politics and in our civic duty was to say to crack us crack Elmont before they get much smarter. Pack them into an area so that they don't have a voice. And on the state level, give them 3 senators. On the congressional level, stick them in Queens. On the ledge, send them to Far Rockaway. Even though those in the 5-town begged, they begged, please don't separate us. But they did. They cracked the 5 towns and packed all the black people together, put all the Jewish people together, and made us into enemies. Because you know what happens when you do that? You have to fight your elected officials for what you need on your side and what they need on their side. And so when you now have to fight for your school district, for resources, that elected official, and I'm going to run out of time, but just give me a little bit of a moment, because this is 10 years, okay?
Just finish up if you can, okay?
Sure. When you do that, my district, our black and brown districts, close your eyes, open them up, you can tell the difference between Manhasset, Garden City, Flora Park, Stewart Manor. Y'all can say some others. Because you know why? They don't have to fight like us. They show up, they vote, and they tell you, this is what we want. And they get it. But us, we don't get that. You talk about what happened to us 10 years ago. Do you know that we did not have a choice in our councilmatic district? We only had 1 person to vote for. 1. And it wasn't a Democrat. Not that the Democrats are perfect either, because I had to go to bat. Because the Republicans chose the Democrats. Because the maps were wrong. So it's like we have to fight for every little thing. Every little thing. And I want to say to you guys, you're not elected officials, right? You were appointed by the elected officials. You were elected by the parties. All of you. Whether it was a Democrat or Republican. They chose y'all to sit up there and listen. And then when you give it to them, the ledge, they're going to look at us, hear us, and they're not going to do anything. They're not. You're not. But we're wiser. And we have people like Fred Brewington. We have the Gen Zs. Read up on what's happening in Elmont with the Gen Zs. We're not standing for it anymore. Our work in the 2020 census, we raised the response by 10% in Elmont and Valley Stream, so that we have enough of the population to give us more districts. That population increase is not for any elected official to use it to stay in power. It is for us to have more of a voice in our government. It is for us to pay our taxes and get the resources that we need, no matter what color, what zip code we are in. It's time for Long Island to shed the most segregated, racist place to live. It's time for you to shed that. And I'm going to be a little optimistic. Let it be you. Let it be you that say to the country, we're going to look at everyone equally. Equally. We know it's a lie. It's probably not going to happen. But perhaps you could think about what's going to happen to you, all of the elected officials that are not standing for our rights.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for all the commissioners that are sitting. And we are the audience that bearing the pressure for last 10 years. And we don't want to bear the pressure for next 10 years. And I ask you, as a commissioner appointed by the parties, did you ever look at the district maps? And I think it's very funny drawn, it's a very fancy name, gerrymandering. And that fancy word does not belong to a democracy either. What democracy stands for? I came from the largest democracy in the world to the oldest democracy as an immigrant. What democracy stands for? When we say that freedom and justice for all, is that true? That we just saying it or it is really happening? What democracy means is that let the people elect their leaders. That is the democracy means. It's not that leaders are going to choose their vote bank. This pocket is mine, that pocket is yours. It is not going to be happen like that. That time is gone, and now God is watching you guys. It's your voice, and it's a fair share for everyone. We are looking that you are going to do your part. That's why, if you look at the district number 2nd, 14, 5, it is like, snakes on the roads. Come on. Some bow in arrows. You are just doing it one block here and there, attaching with another bunch of the wood bank. No, it is not going to be happen like that. Please do the justice with the people. Let's not live by the zip codes that we are going to send our kids to the school by the zip codes.
That's right.
Please do your due diligence and let the party knows how the district is going to be drawn in the fair share for everyone. And do the justice as God gives you the power to do that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. That concludes the comments from the public. With that, motion to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed?
Could you say when the next meeting is and when?
Sure. It's next week at Long Beach. Next Wednesday night. 28th, yeah.
Where?
At Long Beach City Hall.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You send a mailer out to everybody and tell them like you send all the wasteful mailers out for all the other crap.
Hey.